Hey, what's up? This is Ryan from After the Blast. I wanted to share the mods that I've done to this Ibanez RG450MB of mine. So in brief, what I've done is I've added a Sustainiac in the neck position here, and that's a sustain driver and a neck pickup. The Graphtech Ghost Piezo bridge system, so that system makes it sound like an acoustic guitar, but also maintains the function of having a floating tremolo system. And then I've got the Killswitch that I added here. The other minor addition is the Bareknuckle Juggernaut bridge pickup here. So to jump into these, the Sustainiac here was kind of the main primary upgrade that I wanted to make to this guitar. But, you know, I first was introduced to the Sustainiac when I was trying to learn the intro to the Halo 2 game. So there's that really cool guitar intro. You know, that dive was just super cool, and once I learned that that's what it was, like, oh, I need one of those. But I was also a huge fan of Avenged Sevenfold and Sinister Gates, so all of his custom guitars, a lot of them have the Sustainiac in them, so I was really inspired by a lot of the stuff that he did with that, so that's something I wanted in my arsenal as well. So I've got even a Schecter Hellraiser 7-string guitar that's is part of my collection as well. So I'm familiar with the setup, and there were a few things as I loaded it into this guitar that I wanted to change. I didn't really love how the control scheme worked when you get it out of a factory, but also the biggest thing is how they wire up the battery. So the first modification I did to how a Sustainiac is wired is this battery selection here. So that just activates the battery by turning it on. You can see the light on the kill switch going on and off. So the reason I did that is most of the times that disconnect is the jack here. So there's usually a stereo jack that they recommend with a Sustainiac install. If you plug it in, it completes the circuit, and then the battery is flowing. But for me, I always have this plugged in because it's always attached to this wireless transmitter on the strap of my guitar. So each one of my guitars has their own transmitter. So I keep it always plugged in, and I just drop it in my guitar vault. And basically what was happening on my Schecter is that my battery would be dead overnight. And that just sucks. It wasn't going to be acceptable if I wanted to rely on this system. So I added this disconnect switch, and I've been running on the same battery for about 3 months now. So that's been hugely successful in addition to me. So one of the other tweaks that I did on this with the Sustainiac wiring scheme was I put the on-off switch for the Sustainiac. So this is battery on-off, but activating the Sustainiac function. I put it on this push-push switch here. So the volume knob here is also a button. So down is on. So normally I'm going to always be playing on the Sustainiac, and then if I want to shut it off, I just pop it up. So it acts like a pen. If I push it down, it'll pop up. So that's unique to a Sustainiac install. They actually do not recommend push-pushes because they are a make before break style switch as opposed to a break before make style switch. So what I mean by that is normally if you've got any other guitar and you wired this up, you'd press this button if you were on the neck pickup and you wanted to activate. So if I was Sustainiac off on the neck pickup and I wanted to activate it, on any other guitar setup that's wired more traditionally for a Sustainiac, is that would connect the driver, the thing that's giving sustain energy to the strings, to the neck pickup sound here. Internally, they would just cross paths and you'd get a very loud pop, which is not something you'd want to deal with. So I came up with an idea that I don't know, I haven't seen anywhere else, and in fact the manufacturer was like, I'm not sure that's going to work, but I gave it a try and it works, which is really cool. So what I've done is the wiring for this switch is duplicated on the pickup selector here. So this is a 2 wafer pickup that has 4 different selection zones in it. So very similar to a super switch. If you've got a 5-way switch, this is just a 3-way. but there's 4 selections happening each time I switch. So 2 of them are pretty traditional, where one of them selects which pickup signal, and then the other one is my coil split. So when I move to the middle position, that's actually coil split. So that's what one of the two, the second wafer is doing, but the third and fourth wafer are actually just a duplicate of how Sustainiac wires their on-off switch. So basically these 2 positions are Sustainiac off, in addition to the pickup selection. But when I switch to the bridge position, it's Sustainiac on. So what that allows me to do is go straight from a section where I'm jamming out with sustain. If I'm playing this guitar solo and I hit a note and I want it to squeal back at me, and then let's say my next section is straight to the neck pickup, I can do that in this guitar, which is one of my primary goals as I was trying to set this up. And I'm really pleased that I was able to pull that off. So the Sustainiac has 3 major settings to it. Most Sustainiacs, you'll see there's a 3-way switch, and I've got that located right here. So this switch, if I'm in all the way down, I'm in fundamental zone mode, which gives me just sustain. So it just holds that note and just keeps going as long as I've got battery and I'm holding the note properly. It just keeps going. Whereas normally, if you play that note, it decays. So that's kind of normal operation. If I flip that back on with the push-push switch, on the other extreme there is harmonic mode. So if I turn that switch all the way up, it'll give you a really extreme harmonic feedback. And that occurs basically anywhere on the fretboard. So that's a whole lot of fun, just as a feature set to have those kind of extreme squeals. One of my favorite little new tricks that I've been able to pick up with that is to do a pinch harmonic. So let's say I'm here, and then it holds, so I can really play with the whammy bar after I had done the pinch harmonic, which is just a fun new trick that I can't wait to kind of write into some music. But my favorite setting is actually mix mode. So in the middle setting of that switch, it kind of does a less of an extreme harmonic on the lower frets. And that's pretty natural feeling to me. But then once you get beyond about the 13th fret, it's fundamental mode. So that way all these notes are just in sustain, and it doesn't squeal back at me. It just holds that note. So that's really nice for guitar solos. Whereas something down here, you might have this natural kind of harmonic transition. And that was a really important addition to me. Is a few years ago I switched to an Axe-FX rig. So I went from playing a loud amp on stage where I could hit a note, and if I stand in the right spots, the guitar would give me some feedback. I really lost that when I got the Axe-FX, is because I wasn't playing out of cabs anymore. My sound was just going to my in-ears. So I'd hit a note, if I swap it off, if I'd hit a chord, I'd play, and it'd go, and it'd slowly taper off, and naturally decay. So that's pretty normal for an Axe-FX or any other digital modeler out there, if you're not playing that out loud. So the benefit of having a quiet stage where you're not putting guitar signal into your stage microphones, vocal microphones, that's a huge benefit. But I lost that kind of reactivity of standing in front of a cab, and that was a bit of a problem for me, where I had written some music where it's like I was relying on feedback there, so I'd have to go from like this, and then like I'd fake it with a pinch harmonic to kind of get that same tone again, but it's not the same. But with this, if I'm in mix mode, the classic metal end of a song where you just hit the note and let it go and let it go. When I'm in mix mode, I get that squeal, which is just like I was used to standing in front of an amp. And then you can play with it a little bit if you switch. So you know, you can tweak those things kind of more on command, whereas it was a little bit more of a dancing game to kind of get the guitar just in the right spot by the cabinet. So that was huge for me to kind of get that play back into it. So the other major component that was added is the Graphtech Ghost Piezo system. So that's loaded here in this what they call the Floyd Rose kind of match. And what that is there are 6 individual quote pickups for each string that then feed to a circuit board that sits about here in the guitar underneath the body. So what that does is it makes it sound with the acoustophonic driver, that circuit board, it sounds like an acoustic guitar. So the on-off switch for that is this tone pot. It's another push-push switch. So down is my magnetics are selected, and up is my piezo is selected. So when I've got it popped up, I should sound like an acoustic with the right patch. So I'll keep the same patch going, but I'll switch back to my magnetics. So that's the bridge pickup, and just to give you a little sense of how all those sounds, here's the coil split for the Bareknuckle. And then the neck pickup is actually the Sustainiac driver, and it's actually an incredibly buttery sounding neck pickup, and I'm actually really pleased with that as just a neck pickup upgrade. But when I have the push-push popped up, the acoustic takes control. So this takes full control. If that's popped up, it's always acoustic, no matter what I've got selected. And as such, right now, no matter if I've got the sustainer on or off, the sustainer goes off, so that way I'm just in a raw acoustic sound. So what's really fun is because I've got that acoustic kind of tone built right into an electric guitar, you can do a lot of more fun. You can really kind of do these shreddy things that you couldn't really do in an acoustic guitar. You can really get into bends that are pretty extreme, but also because I've got this tremolo bridge system here, is you can be on an acoustic sound and be able to play with some tremolo in there, and that's really neat to have in the arsenal. So that's a lot of fun. The other major component that's kind of flashy is the kill switch. So this one's pretty self-explanatory. Basically, if I press it down, my signal is cut. Basically, the signal is sent to ground, is how that works. So that's a whole lot of fun just on its own, but in addition with the Sustainiac, there's a whole lot of fun that can be had because your notes are held a lot longer. So that's just a whole lot of fun to play with. So one of my goals as I did all these electronics and kind of figured all of it out is I didn't want anything to get in the way of controls that I was already used to. So I'll start with the kill switch here. So I've got my mags selected, so my push is down, so the mags are selected. So that works on the bridge setting, works on all the other pickup settings. But what's really unique is with the Graphtech system that you won't see in too many other guitars is when I have the acoustic setting. So I've got the acoustic sound. Might be a little hard to tell if you're hearing like the microphone audio, but it also cuts on the acoustic channel. And if somebody who's familiar with this system is like, wait, how did you do that? So this pot is a dual pole, dual throw switch. So that's what the button is, dual pole, dual throw. So 2 of those wires on the one side are the mag signal and the piezo signal. The third one then goes to ground, so whichever one is not selected basically goes to ground. what I did was I connected those two lugs of the mag and piezo, crossed them onto the other side, and basically the opposite happened, is the one that is selected gets connected to the kill switch. So if I'm in mags, the mag gets sent here. If I'm in piezo, the piezo gets sent to the kill switch. So that's really fun that I was able to accomplish that and not kind of lose any of that, which is great if I'm jamming along and I'm in some acoustic setting. And then I switch to my rhythm sound or something. Or something that's got a kill switch part. It's still functional even if I forgot to press that back down. I mean, I'm probably going to know because I hear the difference. So creatively, it gives me that option if I'm in acoustic and I want to do a kill switch, or it's just as a backup if I forgot to turn off the piezo. Another unique control scheme on this in relation to the piezo system is the volume and tone knobs here. So most times when you get a Graphtech system, all the wiring schematics point to having two separate volume knobs, one for the magnetics, one for the piezo, or you'd have mags and piezo stacked, two separate knobs that are stacked. What this is, what's really cool, normal volume control if I'm in acoustic sound. The volume still works, so it's a master volume. So how did I make that happen? This is actually a stereo pot. So that's two separate pots stacked on top of each other. I've got the mags onto the top and the piezo into the bottom. So simultaneously, as I turn this down, I'm turning both of them down because they're on two separate pots. So similarly, the tone pot does the same thing, where if I am in my mags, if I'm in my mags, I've got tone control, and that's the case with all pickups. But also on the acoustic, because I've got two separate signals, so the acoustic is on the second pot on this stacked pot here. You'll notice the difference a little less extreme on the dirty channel, but if I'm on the clean channel here, so. So it's a bit of a darker tone to just have that. And it's interesting because they don't really recommend wiring a tone pot. They say, you know what, our acoustic tone, we've really dialed it in. And it's like, well, yeah, I agree. When I'm all the way up, that's what I like. But like, I want to be able to play with it. What if I'm just searching for a tone? So having that ability still function is really cool to me. Pick holder here, kind of inspired by Steve Vai and what he does. So he'll either have a sticky strip up on the headstock, or he'll do a binder clip is the other solution that he has to make that work up there. So I latched onto the binder clip. I tried the sticky pad, and that didn't really work out so great for me. But the binder clip has just basically clamps down around the pick. So I just cut it down to size and had to make some careful cuts to segment it so it followed the arch. But that gives me access to 3 extra picks here. So like I tried up on the headstock, but that really wasn't ergonomic for me to reach up here and grab something if I dropped a pick. And I tried a few other locations kind of down here on the bottom of the guitar. That was a problem for me. If I was sitting down, you know, I'd be knocking picks off with my leg. And then I tried it up on the top of the lower horn. And sometimes my hand would flail and flick one off, so that didn't work so great. But also if I was doing a big dive, my hand actually fell right where I had the picks mounted before, so that didn't work great. So I put it up here, and that seems to be pretty well out of the way, but close enough that's ergonomic. If I drop something, it's right there. Up on the headstock, I've got 2 other mods. So up here I've got the Tone Vice net locks, so that's these little levers that just by hand I am able to unlock the nut, which is a really cool concept. And then by hand I can lock it back down. So if I'm a little bit out of tune, the fine tuners can't quite reach, I can, without finding an Allen wrench, pop it open, do my adjustments, and pop it closed. The other modification are these Graphtech ratio tuners, and these are actually really cool. So you can see the knobs at the bottom are the locking pegs for the strings, and I find that extra helpful for changing out strings. It's just quicker to put the string through the hole, lock it down, as opposed to trying to hold it in place or tie a fancy knot to make that happen. So that just sped things along. But also, each of these heads are tuned with a different gear, so there's a different ratio on each of these heads that will make one turn on each head about the same step difference on each string. So that's really cool. That it kind of feels uniform, but it makes things a little bit quicker when you get to like the high strings, especially if your typical tuning head, you're turning that forever to get it into the place that you need. This goes a lot quicker, whereas the reverse on the low E string is usually you turn it the tiniest bit and it goes like 3 steps up or down, and they kind of lowered that gear ratio so that way it's a lot more conducive to fine tuning. So that was a really cool addition to me. That, it's a little bit redundant to having locking pegs and I'm fine tuning down here. It's just an extra little nicety, especially when changing out strings. So far that I've found out there on the internet, there's only one guitar company that will make a guitar that has a Sustainiac loaded and a piezo system loaded. I actually think it is the Ghost system and the Sustainiac, but there's only one out there that I found, and it's got a ton of extra controls that I didn't really want. And it just kind of wasn't the look of guitar I was after to get these functions. And there's only one other guitar I've ever seen out on the internet that has a sustainer system, not a Sustainiac, some system, a piezo system, couldn't quite tell which it is, and a kill switch, and then it had a million other mods that were really cool. But what I mean to say is that this is a very unique combination of components, and most unique especially is how I've got the controls wired up. I'd say this is a really one-of-a-kind guitar as far as that goes.